Hello and welcome to My Daily Trivia. I'm your host, Danny. Today is Tuesday, August 1st, and I hope that you're having a wonderful day. If this is your first time listening, welcome. My Daily Trivia is a 10-round quiz show with no specific themes, topics, or categories. We do, however, have a new episode every day, Monday through Friday, with each day is getting progressively harder. So today is Tuesday, which means today will be relatively easy. But as always, if you find this episode to be challenging, I encourage you to listen to other episodes throughout the week, no matter what, just because you might never know when you're going to surprise yourself and you might know some answers, or you could always learn something as well. And if you find this episode to be maybe a little too simple, always check in tomorrow where we'll get it cranked up a little bit more. So without further delay, let's get into today's round of questions with question number one. What is the name of the first artificial satellite launched into space by the Soviet Union in 1975? And that satellite was Sputnik 1. Sputnik 1 was the first artificial Earth satellite. It was launched into an elliptical low Earth orbit by the Soviet Union on the 4th of October 1957 as part of the Soviet space program. It sent a radio signal back to Earth for 3 weeks before its 3 silver zinc batteries ran out. After 3 months in orbit, Sputnik 1 burned up while re-entering Earth's atmosphere, having completed 1,440 orbits of the Earth. It traveled a distance approximately 43 million miles or 70 million kilometers. Sputnik was only 23 inches in diameter, but it weighed about 184 pounds. At 500 miles up, at the speed of 18,000 miles per hour, this meant that Sputnik circled the globe every 96 minutes. Pretty incredible for 1957. That was Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite launched into space. Moving on to question 2. What is the phenomenon called when a word loses its meaning over time and becomes a mere empty sound? And that phenomenon is called semantic satiation. Semantic satiation is a psychological phenomenon in which repetition causes a word or a phrase to temporarily lose meaning for the listener, who then perceives the speech as repeated, meaningless sounds. Extended inspection or analysis in place of repetition also produces the same effect. Studies have been conducted to show its effect on word learning and reading, as well as its potential use as a tool to gain more understanding on language acquisition, such as those studies that investigated the nature of multilingualism. Moving on to question 3. What is the capital city of Brazil? The capital city of Brazil is Brasilia. Brasilia is the federal capital of Brazil and the seat of government for the federal district. The city is located high in the Brazilian highlands in the country's central west region. It was founded by President Kubitschek in 1960 to serve as the new nation's capital. If you had guessed Rio de Janeiro, you actually would have been right about 65 years ago. In 1763, Rio de Janeiro became Brazil's capital and remained so until 1960. Plans to move the capital to a more central location were first conceived in 1827, and work began on the move in 1956. The city was planned and constructed over the next 4 years, and today it ranks as Brazil's third most populated city and has the highest GDP per capita among major Latin American cities. So, capital of Brazil, not Rio de Janeiro. It is, in fact, Brasilia. Question number 4. Zion National Park is located in which U.S. state? Zion National Park is an American park located in southwestern Utah. Located at the junction of the Colorado Plateau, the Great Basin, and the Mojave Desert regions, the park has a unique geography and a variety of life zones that allow for unusual plant and animal diversity. Human habitation of the area started about 8,000 years ago with small family groups of Native Americans, and westward expansion led to the settlement of the area by Mormon groups in the 1860s. In 1909, President William Howard Taft named the area, get ready for this, I will not pronounce this correctly, but he named the area the Mukuntuwep National Monument in order to protect the canyon. However, this name was deemed too difficult to say, and I kind of agree. It was deemed too difficult to say, so in 1918, the acting director of the newly created National Park Service proposed to change the park's name to Zion National Monument, Zion being a term used by the Mormons that settled the area. So, Zion National Park, you can find that in Utah. Moving on to question 5. In baseball, what is the term used for a hit that allows the batter to safely reach second base, third base, and home plate in just one play? And that term is a home run. In baseball, a home run is scored when the ball is hit in such a way that the batter is able to circle the bases and reach home plate safely in one play without any errors being committed by the defensive team. A home run is usually achieved by hitting the ball over the outfield fence between the foul poles, or even hitting either foul pole will work, without the ball touching the field. All this has to happen without the ball touching the field. The first home run ever hit in the National League was by a man named Ross Barnes of the Chicago White Stockings, a team now called the Chicago Cubs, in 1876. Nicknames for the home run, this made me laugh. Nicknames for the home run include Homer, Round Tripper, Four Bagger, Big Fly, Dinger, Long Ball, Jack, Shot, Moonshot, Bomb, Tater, and Blast. So, home run, that is a term that is used for a hit that allows a batter to go all the way around the bases. Moving on to question 6. Which English singer-songwriter released the hit song Shape of You in 2017? And that English singer-songwriter is Ed Sheeran. Shape of You was released on January 6, 2017, as one of the double lead singles from his third studio album, Divide. This song actually became the first song to hit 2 billion streams on Spotify and is currently the second most streamed song on the platform with 3.4 billion streams. It's only behind Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. It was also the most streamed song of the decade on Spotify with 2.4 billion streams by December of 2019. This was also the last song written by Ed Sheeran for the album. He had recently written all the songs he wanted for the album. The song was therefore not intended to be included, but it certainly seems that it was a good idea that he added it. So, Shape of You by Ed Sheeran. Question number 7. What is the scientific term for the process by which an organism changes its form or structure during its life cycle? And that term is metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is a biological process by which an animal physically develops, including birth transformations or hatching, involving a conspicuous and relatively abrupt change in the animal's body structure through cell growth and differentiation. Some insects, fish, amphibians, mollusks, and crustaceans undergo metamorphosis, which is often accompanied by a change of nutrition source or behavior. Animals can then be divided into species that undergo complete metamorphosis, incomplete metamorphosis, or no metamorphosis. Examples of metamorphosis include tadpoles turning into frogs or toads, and larvae turning into butterflies or moths. So, metamorphosis, that is a scientific term for the process by which organisms change their form. Question number 8. Which American music genre originated in the African American communities of New Orleans and is characterized by its improvisation and syncopated rhythms? And that music genre is jazz. Jazz is a music genre that originated in the African American communities of New Orleans, Louisiana, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with its roots in blues and ragtime. Since the 1920s Jazz Age, it has been recognized as a major form of musical expression in traditional and popular music. Jazz is characterized by swing and blue notes, complex chords, call and response vocals, polyrhythms, and improvisation. No one knows exactly where the word jazz comes from. However, most agree that it was used to be a slang term, and some say that the term actually came from baseball, where it was used to describe verve and fighting spirit. Moving on to question 9. Who wrote the play Romeo and Juliet? And the answer there is William Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy written by William Shakespeare early in his career about the romance between two Italian youths from feuding families. It was among Shakespeare's most popular plays during his lifetime, and along with Hamlet, is one of his most frequently performed plays. Today, the title characters are regarded as archetypal young lovers. Shakespeare's use of poetic dramatic structure has been praised as an early sign of his dramatic skill. The play ascribes different poetic forms to different characters, sometimes changing the form as the character develops. For example, Romeo grows more adept at the sonnet over the course of the play. Fun fact, although Shakespeare wrote the play in 1591 or 1596, sources differ, although he wrote the play then, women were actually not allowed on stage until nearly a century later. A woman named Mary Saunderson became the very first woman to professionally play Juliet in 1662. Romeo and Juliet, written by William Shakespeare. Finally, last question of the day, question number 10. Which scientist developed the theory of evolution? And that scientist was Charles Darwin. In 1858, Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace published a new evolutionary theory explaining in detail Darwin's On the Origin of Species. Darwin's theory, originally called descent with modifications, is contemporarily known as Darwinism or Darwin theory. Unlike predecessors, Darwin proposed a common descent and a branching tree of life, meaning that two very different species could share a common ancestor. Darwin based his theory on the idea of natural selection. It synthesized a broad range of evidence from animal husbandry, biogeography, geology, morphology, and embryology. Debate over Darwin's work led to the rapid acceptance of the general concept of evolution, but the specific mechanism that he proposed, natural selection, was not widely accepted until it was revived by developments in biology that actually occurred in the 1920s through the 1940s. So, Charles Darwin, known for developing the theory of evolution. So that concludes this round of My Daily Trivia. If you found this round to be simple, I encourage you to check in tomorrow. We'll make it a little bit harder. And if you found it difficult today, well, You should check in anyway. You might surprise yourself and know a few answers, and if you don't, you might learn something along the way. As always, we encourage you to tell friends and families as we grow this community here at My Daily Trivia. I want to thank you again for listening to My Daily Trivia today. I'm your host, Danny, and I will see you tomorrow.